Some of the wealthiest investors in the world were duped out of $1 billion by a car mechanic. In a nation like the United States, he was able to accomplish this without stealing from any banks or cheating with a loan. Instead, he sold solar panels and earned a lot of money. Even some of the world's largest industrialists were tricked by his skilled scheme. However, what exactly did he do? Who was this guy that even deceived Warren Buffett and other investors? And above all, how was his fraud eventually discovered? Let's investigate. 36-year-old Jeff Karpoff founded an auto repair business with his wife to support their children. However, the business failed, making it difficult for them to care for their family. Jeff was obsessed with money, therefore he was continually trying new things. But success had always missed him. When his financial position worsened, he began distributing drugs to support his children. He gradually acquired debt, making it increasingly difficult to pay his rent and obligations. Even selling drugs did not seem like a long-term answer, so Jeff began looking for a job. He finally got a job as a solar panel salesman. His job required him to meet with people on a daily basis in order to sell solar panels, which allowed him to better understand their worries. Jeff quickly came to understand that although consumers were interested in purchasing solar panels, they were worried about theft. Addressing the fear presented Jeff with an essential financial chance, and a strong concept started to take shape in his head. Why not devise a method to secure solar panels, he argued. The issue would be resolved if the panels could be placed on a truck or trolley used during the day and then transferred to a safe place at night. Although the idea was excellent, there was a significant problem. Jeff lacked the technical know-how to make it work. He therefore got in touch with his mechanic cousin. They eventually created a mobile solar generator. In simple terms, it was a wheeled frame with solar panels fixed to the top. These panels could be locked up and relocated to a safe place after usage. In the meantime, portable diesel generators were already on the market and operated similarly to Jeff's concept, with the exception that Jeff used solar power. The market for portable generators was valued at $3 billion. However, Jeff and his cousin had no idea how to compete in this market or convince customers to transition from diesel generators to solar ones. But they were fortunate. Watson, a client of the car repair shop, worked as a software specialist. He volunteered to help them launch a business after hearing about Jeff's concept. After naming the business at DC Solar, Watson and his group joined to take care of marketing. They targeted Hollywood, where loud diesel generators were being utilized on film sets rather than the broader population at the first step. A more silent option was offered by DC Solar's transportable solar generators, which were quickly being utilized on a number of large film sets. Wow! The company gained a significant boost in promotion in 2009 when Leonardo DiCaprio, a well-known American actor and film producer, shared images of these solar panels on his Facebook account. The growth. In the meantime, Jeff began expanding his network by connecting with other businessmen. He never missed a chance to promote his company at public events. Jeff soon joined forces with Nixon Peabody, a famous legal company. During this time, the United States Congress passed legislation tripling the tax credit for investments in solar technology. This implied that any company investing in solar panels may receive tax credits worth 30% of its purchase price. Companies might save money on electricity expenses, while also receiving a 30% government return for investing in solar energy technology. In addition to this fantastic government deal, DC Solar unveiled a new package that allowed companies to purchase solar panels for just 30% upfront and the rest 70% to be paid in installments. The deal was too excellent for anyone to give up. Both parties benefited, and DC Solar's network grew very quickly. Jeff was in a stadium watching a baseball game in 2011 when he got a message informing him that 192 mobile solar generators had been ordered by Sherwin-Williams, Swing, a well-known paint company. At $29 million, this was Jeff's largest order. Additionally, DC Solar was approached by an American bank that focuses on employment creation and tax reduction. In order to persuade the bank that the demand for solar generators was rapidly increasing, Jeff faked data and paperwork. As a result, DC Solar's first financial partner was the American bank. In order to lower their clients' electricity costs and tax burden, the bank intended to buy solar generators from DC Solar and lease them to third parties. At this point, everything seemed to be according to plan, and nothing appeared unusual. The failure. The generators that were put on movie sets soon began to malfunction and frequently break down. Given that Jeff and his cousin had constructed them with very little knowledge and frequently relied on Google for information, this was to be anticipated. Generator owners began to file complaints one by one. They were forced to use diesel generators once more after the solar generators failed. When the money started coming in, Jeff, who was basically just a regular guy, started living in luxury. He became distracted from the business and began fabricating stories to hide his shortcomings. The deadline had passed, and just the initial batch of panels for Sherwin-Williams had been manufactured. They used nuts and bolts to hold together old panels, which weren't working, in order to fool the corporation. Jeff was having a great time. He purchased a new vehicle and a new home. No business was willing to lease the generators for 5 to 10 years since orders were delayed. DC Solar was unable to pay its previous investors due to the lack of long leases. However, Jeff and his group came up with a different strategy. They came up with an undercover scheme to repay old investors with the proceeds from fresh purchases. They also continued collecting millions of government tax credits by calling themselves a solar company. In essence, they were taking taxpayer funds by utilizing falsified data and papers. The moment had come to implement this plan. Jeff required new investors in order to pay off the previous ones with the money they contributed. He presented false statistics to each investor, giving the impression that generators were being sent from one place to another to give the impression that demand was great. Because of this, investors thought the company was doing well and readily contributed more funds. The scam. By employing these strategies, Jeff scammed Shell Company for $76 million. The Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, tried to look into DC Solar in 2014. However, the firm was saved when its legal representatives were able to convince them to discontinue the investigation. The business as a whole has become a scam that is deceiving investors with no actual sales or revenue from the general public. However, capital from investors continued to pour in. Jeff continued to search for larger investors. Jeff was fortunate to find that Valley National Bank had requested a list of businesses that rented or leased solar generators in order to make a purchase of $76 million worth of solar equipment. This list included the name of DC Solar, which was accused of renting out 80% of its generators when, in fact, just 5% were rented out. Valley National Bank was likewise a victim of this fraud. Likewise, Jeff Karpoff caught a GEICO, an insurance firm, in his scam. This business is a division of Berkshire Hathaway, which is owned by one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet, Warren Buffett. No one was able to stop Jeff. But now Jeff was being held more tightly by destiny. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Securities and Exchange Commission conducted investigations after a DC Solar employee revealed the company. After demonstrating the fraud, Jeff was taken into arrest. Investigations discovered that Jeff was running a Ponzi scam under the premise of selling generators, using money from new investors to pay off older ones. These kinds of Ponzi schemes only endure for a few years before the main issue arises when the flow of new investors slows down. In these situations, the business either vanishes overnight or the owners are arrested. Jeff Karpoff ran a billion-dollar Ponzi scheme in a country like America, involving major corporations. On paper, they had produced 17,000 solar generators in total. Fake GPS trackers were displayed to investors who were informed that there was an abundance of solar generators available on the market. Investigations, however, showed that those GPS trackers were buried at several points in the ground rather than on generators. Jeff Karpoff received a 30-year prison sentence on November 9, 2021. In addition to him, his wife and 5 other people received sentences for their roles in the plot. That is the end of a huge Ponzi scheme. What are your thoughts about such frauds? Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Let's meet again with another interesting video.